Zariman breach was not stitched to the void's accident, became silent said during the anchors, for a rupture was not war long neglected was consent be. Splintered the Orokin sect, rupture was not erased from neglected was hiss, carved the rift to flood the sentient citadels with oblivion. Became Zariman 10-0 anchors, for a war-long incident did not corrupt buried children, it weaponized them. Their minds, stitched to the void's memory, became anchors for a war long buried. Why else would the void spare these vessels, yet devour all others? Yet devour all covenants others, shadow lingers in every breath, the Tenno steal from death. What did they sacrifice to keep the darkness at bay? What if the Zariman's rupture was a deliberate act? A lost Orokin faction didn't breach the void, they weaponized it. Their final covenant forged the Tenno not as warriors, but as vessels, children forced to bear the weight of a war long abandoned. The void's silence was no accident, it watched, it waited. The indifference that haunts the man in the wall is not a stranger. It is the echo of every choice the Tenno refused to make, every sacrifice they weren't allowed to grieve. The breach was a gambit, the war never ended, it only changed its shape. And the Tenno walk its battlefield, alive but unalive, their every breath a debt paid in shadows. The forgotten covenant's blade was not steel, it was the void, cleaved open by a fractured Zariman. Children slept in its light, children woke as its vessels. A last Orokin hand, unseen, guided the breach a gambit to flood the sentient tide with nightmare. The Tenno did not choose this, they were chosen, torn from flesh and reforged as living scars. Their immortality is no gift, it is a wound that will not close. The void touch hums in their veins, a dirge for a war fought in shadows. The Orokin fell, the sentients returned. And between them the Tenno marched neither side's child, yet both sides' weapon. What becomes of a people whose first breath was a curse? Their every step echoes with the weight of that choice. The covenant is dust, the war is shapeless. The Tenno walk alive but unbroken, their existence a question the void will never answer. The operator moves like a shadow torn loose from bone. Void beams carve the air behind them, cold, hungry, alive. Their dashes leave trails of absence, as if the world itself recoils. This is no accident of design. The void mode does not mimic the Tenno's touch. It is the touch, distilled to its sharpest edge. The Orokin did not stumble into the breach, they carved it. A blade of reversed light, forged in the last days of their war. The Tenno's immortality is not a gift. It is a scar. Children stolen from dying stars, their bodies rewritten to hold what the Orokin could not, the raw, unbound weight of the void. The operator's abilities are a mirror, a reminder. The covenant did not fail because they were weak. They failed because they reached too far. Their ritual did not accidentally the fabric of reality. It unstitched it, thread by thread, to trap the sentients in a prison of negation. But the void does not forgive. The operator's power is a wound that never clots. Every dash, every beam, every moment in void mode is a slow unraveling. The Orokin who designed this knew the cost. They paid it, their bones now dust in the dark, their names erased by time, yet their work endures. The Tenno walk not as warriors but as monuments, living proof of a war that never ended. What becomes of a species that bets its soul on a weapon it cannot wield? Covenant's faltering breath answer of a was civilization that chose to etch in the burn the sky rather than let it fall stars. The Tenno are not accidents. They are the final, Covenant's faltering breath answer of a was civilization that chose to etch in the burn the sky rather than let it fall. And the void, patient and cruel, waits for them to remember. The Zariman 10 seats glyphs are not mere decoration. Their spirals mirror technosite lattice structure blueprints for binding energy to matter. These symbols predate the ship's construction, etched into its frame during the Orokin's final centuries. A ritual site, not a command chair. The Entradi, in their desperate mapping of void apertures, uncovered something stranger, records of harmonic fractures, events where the indifference bled into reality like ink in water. Their logs hint at a forgotten war, one where the Orokin did not flee the void, they sought to shackle it. This was no accident. The glyphs align with patterns found in the Samaris synthesis logs, sequences that collapse when exposed to void resonance. A key and its lock. The Entradi's research suggests the Orokin understood the void as a weapon, a force to be channeled through precise spatial distortions. The Zariman's breach was a trigger, its rupture calibrated to collapse a void aperture into the sentient expanse. A last gambit by a faction erased from history, their names worn away like shipyards swallowed by dust. What remains is the echo of their purpose. The 10 seats carvings do not warn of danger, they invite it. The Indifference was never an enemy to be fought, it was a tool to be wielded. And the Orokin in their fall left behind a blueprint for awakening what they bound. The void waits. The question is not asterisk if asterisk it will be unchained. It is asterisk who asterisk will turn the key. The breach silence was no accident. The void did not roar, did not recoilingly asterisk watch asterisk. A stillness so absolute it carved its own geometry into the fabric of war. The sentience machines screamed as they fell, but the void hummed a slower song, one that had been waiting. The indifference, that hollow architect lurking in the dark between stars, did not act. It asterisk archived asterisk. Every spark of defiance, every shattered hull, every drop of Orokin blood became a glyph in its endless ledger. The man in the wall, mirror to forgotten kings, did not weep. It asterisk remembered asterisk. Beneath Zariman's shattered husk, the Orokin did not bargain, the asterisk summoned asterisk. A covenant carved in bone and code, a ritual to bind the void's patience into a blade. They did not seek to contain the abyss, they sought to asterisk awaken asterisk it, to turn the sentient's own hunger against them. But the void is no common prisoner, its stillness was a snare. Every weapon they forged, every chain they wrought, became a thread in its design. The breach was not a failure. It was the first breath of something older than war. The sentients thought they had won. A hollow victory buying centuries with a debt of silence, but the void's memory is a forge, it shapes, it asterisk waits asterisk. The indifference does not love, does not hate, it asterisk calculates asterisk. And in the cold between the stars, where the man in the wall whispers to the dead, the void has been stitching its answer. The Orokin's last act was not a plea, it was a asterisk riddle asterisk, and the key. It was never meant to unshackle the void, it was a warning, a name, a asterisk signature asterisk. The question is not who will turn the key. The question is who will still be asterisk alive asterisk when the void decides to answer. The void's stillness was no ignorance, it remembered. A silent counterpoint to the Orokin's hubris watching their ritual fray, their sigils bleed. What appears passive is a predator's patience. The breach at Zariman, not a mistake but a covenant's echo. A faction exiled not by time but by purpose. They carved the rift to turn the void's hunger against the sentients, their final gambit etched in starlight and ash. But the void outlasted their war. It absorbed their sigils, their pain, their asterisk intent asterisk. Now it hums with the weight of their failure, a weapon never completed, a message never received. The void does not see you, but it remembers. Every fracture in the sky is a ledger of debts unpaid. And Zariman's scar, a finger pointing backward to the Orokin's last forgotten war, the void was never empty, it was asterisk waiting asterisk. For the right enemy, for the right asterisk moment asterisk, the question is not who will open the door. The question is who will recognize the handprint left on it, 140 words. The glyphs etched into Zariman's husk are not warnings, they are equations. The Orokin did not stumble into the void, they calculated its hunger. Void touch was not corruption, it was calibration. A final attempt to bind the sentience architects to a weapon that never fired. The indifference did not flee, it waited. The void's eerie stillness was its first strike, a counter-ritual woven from the same threads the Orokin sought to unravel. A faction lost to time, severed from the Empire's fall, made this gambit, not madmen, strategists. They fused technocyte-stricken hosts with Tenno transference, forging warframes not as soldiers, but as anchors. A fleet of living keys to turn in the void's lock, but the ritual faltered. The sentience architects were never meant to be caged. The breach was their answer, a collapse of paradoxes, erasing both weapon and wielder. What remains is a scar, not an accident. A covenant sealed in silence. The Orokin's last war did not end with victory or defeat. It ended with the universe refusing to remember. The Zariman's rupture was no accident. A covenant forged in ash, its breach a final gambit by Orokin exiles to chain the void to their will. The operator's void mode is not a tulip, is a scar. A ritual half performed, its energy a relic of those who sought to drown the sentients in oblivion. The drifter remembers. Not the child's fragments the lotus grants, but the full horror, equations etched in dying starlight, warnings buried in the Duviri paradox. He speaks of paradoxes because he witnessed one civilization folding inward to avoid annihilation. Hunhau's signal was no rediscovery. It was a trigger. The sentient's return is the Orokin's vengeance, unburied by those who survived the purge. The Chimera prologue is not prophecy, it is a requiem. Every Warframe, every relic, every Tenno's fractured soul is debris from a war that outlived its architects. The void does not consume, it mourns. What remains is not conquest but consequence. The Tenno are not saviors. They are the last echoes of a ritual that failed to end. Bound to a cycle they cannot recall, walking the wreckage of a species that traded its future to delay the inevitable. The universe forgot, the void remembers. What if the Zariman breach was a weapon, not a wound? A lost Orokin faction, erased by time, turned the void against the sentients, a gambit written in shadows. The void does not see you, but it remembers. What if the ritual was never meant to end, only to begin? The cycle grinds, the test continues. What remains when the last echo fades? Challenge this, disagree. The comments are the battlefield. What if the Zariman breach was a weapon, not a wound? A lost Orokin faction, erased by time, turned the void against the sentients, a gambit written in shadows. The void does not see you, but it remembers. What if the ritual was never meant to end, only to begin? The cycle grinds, the test continues.